Hey class, this video is just really a supplement to your Unit 1 work. Just in case anybody has done their discussion and you've looked at your other classmates' discussion post and you're just wondering why most people, if not everybody, is getting NA for mode. And also maybe getting some calculations like the min and the max and the range that you probably already know how to calculate by hand because they're fairly easy things to look at and to calculate. But you're wondering why the data analysis toolpak is giving them to where they're going to decimal places, whereas these numbers are whole numbers. The primary reason for that is because these numbers were randomly generated from Excel's random number generator. So truly, these numbers, even though when you used paste special and saved these, they were being saved in the same format, meaning they were being saved to be rounded to whole numbers, but truly they are not whole numbers. They really go to many, many, many decimal places, and that's why you're seeing these discrepancies. And if every individual number goes to many, many decimal places, then the reason most everybody's getting NA for mode is because truly these numbers to all of their decimal places, it's most likely that none of them are the same number. That would be very improbable for these numbers that go to many, many decimal places to all, to have any that are identical, which would justify why we're getting no mode. But in case you want to see how to take randomly generated numbers and get them actually saved as whole numbers so that you could generate modes and that don't turn out to show NA, and so that you could get range calculations and minimum and maximums and so forth that agree with these whole numbers, then I thought it would be good to take the time to do that just for anybody that wanted to try that, or for anybody that was just questioning why we were getting these decimal places. So it's nothing to worry about. It's honestly not something that I wanted students to have to worry about in Unit 1 when you were already just getting used to the course itself. But since there will be a few other units where we use randomly generated numbers, I thought, it's a good time to go ahead and provide this video so that you can, understand a little bit more about what Excel's doing and why you were getting this strange result. So this should look familiar if you've done your Unit 1 discussion. I'm just going to type in my name, get my IQ set that I'm going to go ahead and click and drag and control copy. Then I'm going to open up a new Excel spreadsheet. And as y'all were instructed to do in the Unit 1 instructions, click Paste Special and do values in number formats. And click OK. All right, so those are the same numbers we had generated. They're not going to change because you have used Paste Special and gotten the actual values to paste as they were. But what I wanted to show you is, okay, so let's suppose we sort these. They're already highlighted. So I'm going to come up here to Sort and Filter under Home, Sort and Filter, Sort Smallest to Largest, and now you see they're sorted. So truly, there definitely looks to be some numbers that repeat. I mean, 79 repeats twice, 85 repeats twice, 97 repeats 3 times, 108 repeats 3 times. So it really looks like there's 2 modes, maybe a 108 that repeats 3 times and a 97 that repeats 3 times. But as y'all notice from doing the Unit 1 discussion, if I went ahead and clicked on Data and used the Data Analysis Toolpak, went down to Descriptive Statistics and clicked OK, and there probably wouldn't be anything in there, and these would probably not be checked yet. But then click my mouse into the input range, click and drag down my IQs. I did include the label, so I'll check that box, check Summary Statistics, and click OK. Then, here we are, mode NA. And the minimum should have been a 77, maximum 127, but it's got 76 point something for the minimum that would round to 77. And it's got the maximum 126.9 something, which would round to 127. And so the range includes a decimal rather than being a whole number by subtracting the maximum minus the minimum. So, if you were questioning this and wondering why these slight decimal discrepancies, and why is the mode NA, even though there appears to be 2 modes, that's why. These numbers are truly numbers that go to more decimal places than what you're seeing. All right, it's just that when I got y'all to paste special, I didn't want y'all to have to paste numbers that went to a gazillion decimal places because that would be intimidating, messy, It always causes a little more anxiety when you're looking at really messy numbers than when you're looking at easy numbers. So that's why, is that these numbers, if I go back to sheet 1 and look at my IQs, they really are numbers that go to more decimal places. In fact, if I were to highlight these and go to, let's see, go up here to home and go to this number section, if I really, after highlighting these, then clicked on number, notice you see that it's already showing them to 2 decimal places. And in reality, they really even go to more decimal places than this. This is all just formatting issues in Excel. So the point is you can take these numbers, and if you really want them to be treated as whole numbers, and so you really want to be able to get Excel to show you that there are those 2 modes that we saw, then what you can do is, I'm going to go to column B. I'm going to retype IQ, but since these are revised IQs, I'm just going to put like IQ-REV, which lets me know these are my revised ones. Okay, and it means I'm not giving this column heading the same heading as column 1. Then there is a rounding function that you could use in Excel, and you could truly get these rounded to whole numbers where the data analysis Toolpak would treat them as whole numbers. So I'm going to click in cell B2, start with an equal sign, and I'm typing capital ROUND. That's a rounding function. Open parentheses. Well, notice you see right here, it's going to want the number that you want to round, comma, and then how many number of digits you want to round to. Well, I want it to round cell A2. So capital A2, comma, and I want it to be rounded to 0 decimal places, meaning whole numbers. So 0, close parentheses, press enter, and actually it's still taking it to 2 decimal places. I can get rid of that by coming up here and clicking decrease decimal places. Actually, I got to highlight that. Decrease decimal places like that. Okay. Now, if I then click and drag, what you want to do to get it all the cells to copy that same rounding feature is you highlight cell B2 and go down to the bottom right hand corner until you see a solid black cross. When you get that solid black cross, just left click your mouse and keep it clicked, left click, and drag down all of these cells until you're level with the last IQ and lift it up. There are your numbers, but they truly should now be treated as whole numbers because we used the rounding function and rounded them to no decimal places. So if we now use the data analysis Toolpak on column B instead of column A, so let's go ahead and do that. We are already in home. We need to switch to data analysis. It's already highlighted descriptive statistics. If not, go ahead and click that. Click OK. I'm going to delete these cells here, and I want to now click and drag down my IQs in column B, my whole number IQs that I've rounded. I did include the label, so I'll keep that checked. It's already got summary statistics checked, but if not, I would want to include that. And I am actually going to get the output pasted because I want to see it on my same sheet here. In order to get the output pasted on this same sheet rather than putting it on a new sheet, I can click where it says output range, click my mouse in that box, and suppose I want my output to start right up here in H1. You can put any blank cell wherever you want your output to start. I'm going to click right there so that notice it put H1 is where it's going to paste my output. And I'm going to click OK. Stretch this out between, and now you see that the data analysis Toolpak is treating your numbers as if they were really these whole numbers in column B, because your minimum is 77, your maximum is 127, your range is 127 minus the 77, which is exactly 50. And now they've given you a mode, but this is what I wanted to point out. So, and I mentioned this in an earlier video, just mainly because I didn't want people stressing out so much about this mode and all this, when the goal of Unit 1 discussion is just to get comfortable with how to use the Toolpak, not to worry about the formatting of numbers. You know, because realistically, if you do research and you collect data, you're not going to have to worry about generating random data sets. You're going to be using your actual data. But it's a nice feature to be able to use in online discussions so that we all have unique data sets to work with, and we can get a feel for sampling variability and all sorts of different cool statistical things. So, but anyway, you see now that if you use that rounding function that I've shown in this video, you can really get it to treat these numbers as whole numbers. If you wanted to do this extra stuff or play around with it, you know, it's all these first early weeks, play around with whatever. Get really comfortable with Excel, as comfortable as you can. But not to the point of letting it intimidate you. You know, hopefully you'll feel like the discussions are just getting you to do a little bit at a time. And when we don't want you to stress out over something, we'll say, you know, there's no, like my earlier video when I said don't stress out over the mode, I was like, you know, y'all just get a feel for the data analysis toolpak. All right, but anyway, so here's what's nice. And so let's focus on this mode. The mode says 97, but yet we noticed that 97 occurred 3 times, and so did 108. So even more, you know, why I said Excel is not the easiest thing to deal with when you're dealing with modes, when you have multi-modes and so forth. If you wanted Excel to show the multi-modes, because if you have just one cell, then Excel can only give you one mode. So if you truly have a data set with more than one mode, it's not going to be able to put that in one cell like this. So here's a workaround for that if you really wanted to see if there were multi-modes and you now have these rounded to whole numbers. Because like I said, if you really use the initial original formatting of the random numbers, you were going to get NA for mode, because it would just be nearly impossible to get, with all the true decimals included in the random numbers, to get any of those 30 numbers to be identical. But now we've got whole numbers. We already know that 97 and 108 really are the 2 modes, because we can just tell. We sorted it, we can tell. So what you can do, you come down and use the equal, M-O-D-E, but when you click equal and then the word mode, you'll see there's mode.mult, which is multi-mode, and mode.single. Well, we want to use the multi-mode function. But in order to do that, so let me delete that for just a second. In order to do that, you have to generate multiple cells in case there are multiple modes, so that your multiple modes can fall into different cells. Remember, I explained that if you only have one cell, Excel's going to only be able to show one mode. So what I'm going to do is click and then drag a little bit down to leave room for multi-modes. I've left room for there to possibly be like, about 6 modes right here. Then do not click your mouse in this top cell, because watch what happens. If I click my mouse, it's going to take away my highlights, and I need my highlighted cells to be there. So I'm going to click and drag again, get my highlighted cells. Do not click your mouse in that top cell. In other words, go straight and click an equal sign on your keyboard. Notice my highlighted gray cells are still there. So go straight into an equal sign, MODE.MULT, open parentheses, click and drag down, but only click and drag down the numbers. Mouse is acting up. That's just my mouse being sticky. All right, let me go up this way. All right, so click and drag, but here's also another tricky thing. When you close parentheses, do not press enter. This has a lot to do with a lot of computer jargon, and we need an array function and all sorts of things for any computer people out there. But otherwise, just don't click enter after you close the parentheses. You actually on your keyboard want to click Control, Shift, and Enter all at the same time. So Control, Shift, and Enter all at the same time, and then I lifted up my fingers. Control, Shift, and Enter. Now you're probably seeing and understanding why in the world I didn't bring all this into the Unit 1 discussion. It's too much. Too much that my students would be so anxious going, I'm never going to get through MM 570. But it's interesting stuff, and now you see that, yes, there are actually 2 modes, a 97 and a 108, just like we knew there should be. That confirms what we thought. So This video will just hopefully ease your worries about why in the world we were getting some decimal points in our calculations when we knew better. We were thinking, well, this is not agreeing with how I know the range is calculated or the min and the max. It's because the fact that those numbers were truly formatted to include a bunch of decimals because they were randomly generated. And it also gives you the opportunity to, it gives you the opportunity to teach you how to get the numbers rounded to whole numbers if you want to. And then you just work with column B. But keep in mind, you don't have to do that in here. I'm perfectly fine on you just using the randomly generated numbers and letting the data analysis toolpak do its thing. And then it also showed how to work the multi-mode function in case you truly, wanted to use the whole number data set rather than the random numbers, and you really wanted to see how the software could generate multi-modes when they truly existed. So if they're whole numbers, you'll probably find that there's, one mode or two modes, or even three. If you use this technique I've shown and highlight enough gray cells, then even if there had been 5 modes that all occurred the most number of times, it would have shown all 5 of them. That's that mode multifunction of Excel. So I hope that's helpful. When you have questions that pop up, just reach out to your instructor. I'm sure there's, explanations for things, but as we, deal with software and get into some of the intricacies of just computers and random number generators and things can get sort of tricky out there. And in case you have questions, it's, often good to pursue why this is happening. And hopefully there will be videos, or we will do our best to make sure we answer your questions and clear things up.